Yo, it's your boy Kamal Hart on the chart. It's Tuesday, November 12th, and we are gonna hit this up expeditiously. Okay, coming into the market at 6:30. This is kind of where you're left with. First thing we're gonna want to do, let's measure this line right here, this wave, and we can even place that here. Go to the measured move target up there. With this leg back and the pullback, we're getting a little bit of congestion and we're kind of in the middle of it. So there's not a trade that I'd be interested in right now. The shorts that played out down here. Off the long, we need a higher low setup and then a failed second entry short setup. So we're ticking below. This is the higher low, but the signal bar isn't that great. So we're gonna have to wait. We can see if this is doing anything for us. We get maybe here or potentially up here. We can start here for now. Okay, so the higher low setup, not it. A little push lower. Second entry long, not a great signal bar. The failed second entry short is here, but prices moved lower than the higher low. So we can restart this count off this low. Get a nice little pop up. It's moving. Yeah, it's unfortunate that this setup wasn't that great, but you just gotta let it do its thing. So it's doing its thing. We get a pullback. This is the higher low, but it's really similar to back over here. It's just not a great setup for the higher low. It's a little bit of congestion there. Finally getting our pullback. Don't get tempted to go short now. We're only looking for longs. Right here is where I see the first trade you could really take. The few issues with it is that it's kind of far from our EMA and the trend line. But if we throw in a midline in here, that ends up being right off it. So that's kind of one reason why I would say I like going long right there. You do have a 3-bar congestion, but worst come to worst on a stop or a limit order on the stop, you're risking 4 ticks. It doesn't get much better than that. That's a really low risk entry. It's funny, when I was trading this, I missed this trade because I tried to get in on a limit order and it never ticked back enough for me to get in. And it turns out I ended up losing money today. So it's crazy that, you know, you miss this trade and then take a couple wrong trades later, and you know you got to fight the FOMO, the what ifs. You know, it's only what is. So just take it bar by bar. So we're starting to get our first pullback. That's a nice move. We touched this side of our line, so our trend channel is holding up. It's a pretty good sign. With this entry, it's an inside bar to the doji. It's not touching the mid or the EMA. First entry to the long. Everything's moving higher. If you're aggressive, that's just not a trade I think I'm ready to take. And it kind of goes up more. Here's another one here. This is the higher low. This is a little bit better setup, and it's at least touching the midline and the close to the EMA. I think it's aggressive to go long there. But at this point, you know, this little trend here is pretty, maybe it's easier to see off the highs. But we'd say the trend that's working this general area, pretty strong. Little spiking trend. These are really strong trends. So inside of this larger trend, we kind of have this tight channel going on. 50 on that one. And then do 50 there. So I could see how, you might want to go long there. That one works. I think once it gets outside of our trend channel, it's too risky to be going long. And it's not a setup there. A little pullback, but we're going right into the channel. I think I'm cool trying to get long up here. And then now we've actually broken out of this channel, and our measured move target's been hit. So really we need to wait for the pullback. Not to take a short, but we just need to wait to pull back in a setup that we can use. Another pullback with a little entry, So maybe even, this line is a little, maybe even a little more like that. I usually don't like skipping over swings though. I think it's a less reliable trend than if you were to use the first couple swings. So what we can do then is we'll read it like this. We had a channel that broke out and now is making legs higher. So to get an idea, if this is wave one, let's look at where we would be on the measured move for wave one. And that's just a few points higher. 3102, 3104, so like 2 points higher. So let's see where that kind of gets us. Here's where I made my mistake on the day. This is where I actually took my first trade. I bought in heavy to the idea of waiting for a second entry, which in these types of trends are kind of rare. So I did wait for a second entry off this high, first and second. But the thing to note is that my signal bar here is an inside bar. We already broke to the outside of the channel. So we're due for the pullback, and it's not off any of the major key areas. I had my stop one tick below this red bar, and it kind of stacked up for a little bit, and then it stopped me out. So yeah, the only way to stay out of that one was just to kind of keep in mind we're outside of here, so we're overdue to come back down to the other side. So now we're getting a nice leg down. We're closing below the EMA. I'm going to go ahead and put a trend line there. Get a little pullback. This is where I made my second trade of the day, because now we have the first leg down, and I'm expecting now a leg to this trend line. If you look off the highs, this broke above, but nothing closed below until this bar. So it would have been the first entry, pullback, and then this is the failed second entry long. It's a good trade that didn't work. If anything, it's a little early, and I had an idea on the next bar. It ticks me out one tick above my signal bar. And this was a trade where I actually thought about leaving my 2-point stop wide. I just had an intuition that, we weren't there. Only thing I'm noticing now in the aftermarket is that when you do have this counter trend leg, look for two-legged pullbacks, because on this bar, that's when it reversed. So it's like I was too early there, and that was a setup. So kind of the two main errors on this particular trade is that the failed second entry setup isn't reliable when the prior swings were in congestion areas. So that alone means when I got to that bar, I need to be looking for second entry shorts. So anything off the top isn't reliable. And it's the second entry short that ended up working. And I saw this happen, and I didn't take it because I thought that we were going right back into that EMA. So I was actually looking to go long. But that's kind of how that trade played out. So it was a little bit of a bummer to have it, tick and hit my stop and then reverse back down. But it's happened so many times to me at this point where, you just kind of keep it moving when it does. So we're back at our trend line. We want to see if it bounces with a nice signal bar, maybe a second entry to this high possibly. And it's kind of making a leg down. So I think at this point, let's go ahead and get our line out. And then maybe put it down here. And the next thing we can do is measure this leg 1 and see where we are for leg 2. I promise, guys, I'm going to get better at getting my measured move on the chart faster. It's always kind of like a secondary thought, and we're going to start bringing that to the forefront. So we're at the measured move just about. Keep going. Got a little stack up there. Man, I almost went long right there just because I lost 2 trades and I wanted my money back. Glad I didn't. Really when you're in the red on the day, you really need to follow the rules. Like, don't worry about making the money back. Just follow the rules and you're going to be way better off. So we're getting, at this point, if we break out on the top side, we're not necessarily going to get the trend break reversal. When you break out on the top side, you sometimes end up going straight through and you're not going to come back to test. So that same principle, I'm kind of thinking on this smaller trend, that since we've broken out the low side, if I get another entry, high or low, I'm willing to go long there, see if we test this line, and kind of see from there where prices go. So that was this bar. I think there's 2 things to keep in mind when I look at this trade, is that there's a micro trend about right there. And based off this trend, there hasn't been a breakout side yet. So I'm buying that breakout. This could easily tick a couple ticks and reverse and set up the second entry short for the retest on the low after hitting this EMA. So it's not the best place to enter. And I actually made a mistake here because I in my charting software, all you have to do is click buy bid, and I accidentally clicked buy bid twice, so I entered on 4 contracts instead of just 2. So I had to exit one just so I could lower my risk because my stop was down here on 4 contracts. And then I exited the third contract, or the remaining 3, I exited at my scalp. Um, so it's a trade that worked, but the execution was pretty poor. And then see like the second entry short. Unfortunately, there wasn't a signal, but that's a big sell-off bar. I would have gone short there if the signal was better. Then see, we get the break, the move to a new low. Now we're going to look for a reversal. And it kind of bounces there. It's just a first entry to the lows, first entry to the highs, so we're still waiting. Here, that's a failed second entry. It's a big bar, and we already have a break and 2 legs down, so I'm going to skip that one. And that one would have failed. Starting to get a move up, so let's get this micro trend on there. Something like, since this is kind of stacked up, I'm just going to go off of that. And if you really want to do it, you need to just do it off the highs. That usually gives you a better line if you're making a trend out of like a congestion area. So that's probably where my line is, something like there. Getting the breakout. You know, oddly enough, you should buy right there. It's a failed second entry short. I think you can buy right there. Oh, it doesn't go far. Maybe not far enough. 25. Yeah, it's going to be a 3-tick fail. So not enough to scalp out. Once you saw that double top, you knew something was going sideways. Okay, so this is kind of something that will help. Is we broke out this low side, so we kind of were in no man's land, trying to figure out. Okay, I think our entry is back over here. We were a little bit in no man's land, trying to figure out where we're going. I think back to this is that since this is congestion-y, I need to use the same rule that I would have used back over here. Is when I get this set up, I need to wait for the second entry long, because the failed second entry is kind of, it doesn't really count. It's the only way to kind of avoid taking that long right there. But you have a double top, and it's a second entry long right there. We kind of saw this one, but that's a big engulfing bar. I mean, yeah, this would be the entry I should have been waiting for over here. That's what this one is. And the reason why I'm ignoring the trend line is because we had the breakout side over here. The only other way you could approach it is that maybe it's a midline. And if it's a midline, then it could be there and then maybe a little bit closer to the EMA. I think if you see it like that, that's valid. There's so many ways to work it that you just kind of have to pick how you're going to play it and then play it like that. I think if you play it more like this, you're probably not going to take this long. If you play it like a breakout, you're going to be more inclined to take that. Break, move to a new high. Longs are too aggressive. Pulls back anyway. So right here, start above the EMA, crossed over, closed below a previous swing. We're going to micro trend that up. Not a convincing break yet. Nothing is broken above. We're still waiting. Congestion area. We're really far from the EMA. Let's see if we get a pullback and second entry short or something we can work with. There was really, in this move, congestion. There's nothing to really take a trade off of. Getting a higher low. This is second entry short. Too close to the lows and the double bottoms. It just bounces back. It's kind of a weird piece of price action right there. Off the EMA, a little past the midline, just kind of floating. That signal bar isn't good enough to really take a long on. The higher low, but we're too close to, we're not really too close to the daily lows, but there is a lot of support over here. If anything we're too close to, I would say it's going to be this channel line. You know, you're going short right into that channel line. It's better to be up here. You just didn't get that signal bar. And you get a big, you get a big break, but there's no way to know it's going to do that. But once it has done that, you can maybe see what the extent of it's going to be. Got pretty close there. It's a pretty strong pullback. And that's 12 o'clock. So today, actually weren't that many trades. 1, 2, 3, 4. I think I see one that I missed in there off this high. First entry. Oh, maybe the trade would have been there. So we can go back and look at that one. There really wasn't that many trades though. Back in here, I think off this high, if you're going to count that high, but it's sketchy because of this little failure. But off this high, went up once, pulled back, went up twice, and that failed. It's aggressive to go short there, but I could consider that a mistrade. It's aggressive. It's hard to go short there. I wouldn't have added on there. It's too much on the lows and stuff. But yeah, that was the day. That was the day. Some days are going to be like this where, like I had to be patient. Because I missed this first trade right at 650, I didn't get in the market until 750, and I started at like 615 a day. So I was sitting on my hands for quite some time today. That's just how it goes. So that's going to be today's chart. DM, email, questions, answers, you're going to find them here. Just let me know. All right, I'm going to catch y'all back here tomorrow. Peace.